Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're focusing our lens on a really fascinating cultural debate, Thailand's legendary reputation as the land of smiles. We're going to dive right into whether this famous friendliness is a genuine, deeply ingrained cultural trait or, well, a carefully calculated tourism tactic. We'll be looking at everything from ancient Buddhist philosophies all the way to Cold War geopolitical strategies to find the answer. Let's just get right into it. Okay, so let's kick things off with a pretty wild debate that recently popped up on Reddit. A traveler had just gotten back from a 2-week trip to Thailand, and they were absolutely glowing about how incredibly kind the locals were. But when they shared this at work, a cynical coworker completely burst their bubble, telling them that all that local kindness, yeah, it was purely transactional. That little comment sparked a massive debate among tourists, expats, and locals alike, ultimately boiling down to one really uncomfortable question: are they nice to me just because I have money? This brings us to a pretty stark divide. On one hand, you've got the romantics and cultural observers. They argue that Thai hospitality is rooted in profound Buddhist teachings and just genuine rural generosity. But on the flip side, you've got the cynics and seasoned expats arguing it's basically a transactional tourism mechanism, a polite culture acting for tips and, in some cases, exploiting naive visitors. The harsh reality, as one local pointed out, is that people in lots of tourist-heavy nations want something from you. But in Thailand, they just happen to ask for it with a very polite smile. But honestly, there are stories that brilliantly back up the romantic side of this argument. One user shared this incredible story about renting a motorbike that completely blew its engine in the absolute middle of nowhere in rural Trang. A random local actually pushed the broken bike with their foot while driving their own scooter for 45 minutes just to get them to a mechanic. Then, a local girl the traveler had briefly dated drove 3 whole hours to pick him up. She let him stay at her house, fed him for 5 days while the bike was getting repaired, and drove him all the way back. And get this, she never asked for a single dime. So, moving into our first section, ranking the smiles, what does the data say? Well, the data actually firmly backs up Thailand's reputation, though maybe not as the undisputed #1 spot. If you look at the 2025 Internations Expat Insider Report, which, by the way, surveys thousands of expats on how easy it is to settle in, Thailand ranks exactly 9th in global friendliness. And similarly, the prestigious Condé Nast Traveler Reader's Choice Awards for 2025 tied Thailand for 8th place globally. So, mathematically speaking, it is undeniably one of the top 10 friendliest places on Earth. Furthermore, if we check out the Gallup Global Emotions Report, an impressive 72% of Thai people are reported to offer friendly smiles to others. That's a lot of smiles. But interestingly, while that number is super high, it actually ranks them 9th within Southeast Asia itself, putting them behind neighboring countries like Indonesia, Cambodia, and Laos, where smile rates can reach up to 90%. So the smiles are mathematically frequent, for sure, but to truly understand them, we really have to look at the psychology behind them. That brings us to our next part, decoding the culture, Namjai and Krengjai. To truly grasp what those numbers mean, we need to peel back a layer and translate 2 complex cultural concepts, deeply rooted in Buddhist teachings of detachment, compassion, and maintaining social harmony. The first one is Namjai. This beautifully translates to water from the heart. This is the cultural drive especially prevalent out in rural areas to offer genuine sincerity and help without any expectation of a reward. It's the exact phenomenon that explains why a local might just leave breakfast bananas at a tourist store or tow a broken motorbike for an hour. It's a fundamental Buddhist approach to sharing resources and radiating kindness. But there's a second, slightly heavier concept we've got to understand: Kwam Krengjai. This is a psychological framework of extreme politeness. It basically dictates that you must be considerate of others' feelings to the point of repressing your own negative emotions, all to maintain social harmony. So you know when a waitress smiles after you accidentally spill water all over her table? That is Krengjai in action. It's not just a smile. It's a calculated de-escalation of conflict. According to linguistic research comparing Thai and Japanese social interactions, this concept actually serves 4 very specific social functions. It protects personal autonomy, it shows concern for the listener, it encourages future positive interactions, and crucially, it creates a really good public image. So the big takeaway here is that this kindness is a highly structured social contract. It acts as a protective social mechanism just as much as it's an expression of joy. Now, let's look at a historical twist: Cold War origins. So while those psychological concepts are ancient, the actual slogan, the land of smiles, has a surprisingly modern origin. Back in the early 1960s, Thailand was under the rule of dictator Field Marshal Seret Phenerat. During this era, the US was absolutely terrified of the domino theory. The idea that if one Asian nation fell to communism, the rest would just follow suit like dominoes. As American GIs started flooding the region for the Vietnam War, Sarat Thinarat established the National Tourism Authority. And this is where the magic really happened. The state intentionally took that natural, ancient Buddhist disposition for social harmony and completely amplified it into a massive, state-sponsored global branding campaign, the Land of Smiles. While neighboring countries like Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam were sadly engulfed in horrific conflicts, Thailand strategically used this carefully constructed smiling image to attract American military presence, secure foreign investment, and project absolute political stability. It was literally brilliant soft power, decades before that term was even invented. Moving on to our final layer, the two Thailands, tourist-facing versus local reality. So we've got this genuine ancient warmth mixed with brilliant state marketing. But because of this unique dynamic, expats often note a pretty stark contrast. Tourist Thailand is incredibly safe, accommodating, and polite. There is almost zero violent crime directed at foreigners. But local Thailand, the interactions between Thais themselves away from the tourist dollars, can be vastly different. As one veteran expat pointed out, the domestic reality includes a homicide rate that actually isn't far behind the United States. A lot of foreigners move there expecting a permanent vacation of smiles, only to eventually discover the hidden fangs behind that polite exterior when real-world pressures apply. Because the smile is a total for social harmony, breaking the rules of that harmony breaks the entire contract. Exhibiting anger in public or doing something to cause a local to lose face will cause those famous smiles to vanish instantly. If you bring aggressive, loud, or disrespectful energy into a culture that deeply values serene detachment, you are going to be met with cold indifference. Ultimately, it really just boils down to this: you get the face you deserve. As one seasoned traveler observed, older Thai locals who have spent a lifetime smiling genuinely have those smile lines permanently etched into their faces. You simply cannot fake that over a lifetime. If you bring positive energy, show respect, and offer a genuine smile of your own, the local population will mirror it back to you tenfold. Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. If a smile is, yes, partially a tool for tourism, and yes, a psychological mechanism to maintain social harmony, does that actually make the warmth you feel when you receive it any less real? Next time you travel, ask yourself, are you just there to consume a polished culture for a week, or are you ready to engage with the complex, fascinating, and incredibly genuine humanity behind the smile? Thanks so much for joining us, and I hope this provided you with a clear, structured understanding of this amazing topic.